England and Australia head into the second test at Lords of the Ashes series, with England surprisingly holding a 1-0 series lead. I'm joined by IB Times sports editor Nick Howson. Nick, even the most optimistic England fans wouldn't have expected to see the result we got in Cardiff, where England, the hosts, end up winning by 169 runs in just 4 days. I mean, they must be full of confidence going into this second test at Lords.
Absolutely, and as you say, it was a in some ways a real shock in Cardiff, in both senses. The fact that Australia sort of folded a little bit, bar the first morning, they really weren't in the match at all. They were chasing the whole time, and England really set the pace with the sort of brand of cricket that we saw them play in the one-day series against New Zealand, and also a bit in the Test series as well, I guess. Really exciting era at the moment, really, and England going to the second test, as you say, with a lot of optimism. They go into it probably as the favourites to not only win the test, but to go on, and it certainly adds a bit of intrigue to a series that could easily have formed sort of a one-dimensional. So, from that point of view, fantastic. We're going to see a competitive series, it seems, and we wait and see what we get at Lords.
And Australia, on the other hand, then they seem to be having real problems, not only losing the first test, of course, but the players that have dropped from the side. You have wicket-keeper Brad Haddin, who's left for personal reasons. You've had Shane Watson replaced. You've had Mitchell Starc, who's on painkillers at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, not ideal. I think in an ideal world, Australia would want to have kept the same team, regardless of the result. You don't want to be making wholesale changes after just one match. Let's not forget, this is an Australian team, number 2 in the world. Okay, they won the World Cup in the one-day format. This is not a team in disarray, or one that's has got form problems. You could argue this is a one-off. So they wouldn't have wanted to make lots of changes. They've been forced into that. Unfortunate for Brad Haddin. A lot of people would question that his form wasn't the best anyway, but he drops out. Peter Neville comes in, and it's really difficult for him. Debut Test match, debut Ashes match as well at Lords. There's a lot of pressure on him to deliver there, particularly after Haddin made 1 or 2 errors. And then obviously we've got Mitchell Marsh. I mean, his form, very, very good, but his Test experience, 4 Test matches, and obviously an Ashes debut. So really tough for them. Australia wouldn't have wanted them out. I think Mitchell Starc obviously will go into the match with injury concerns, but obviously he looks like he's going to play. And he was probably Australia's best player in that first Test. Certainly their best bowler. Certainly the most effective with the ball, and it'll be very interesting to see how he bowls down that Lord's slope, and if he can get England in any sort of bother. Let's not forget, this is not, as I said at the top, this is not an Australian team that have been playing badly. This is a top class side, but we'll wait to see if that was a blip at Cardiff, or if England have really got into them or not.
If that's the case, then what do you expect of the test at Lords, and who do you expect to prevail?
Yeah, I mean, I think there will be a number of things that really from the very start that will sort of dictate how the rest of the match is going to go on. I think the first one is what sort of pitch are we going to get at Lords. I think it was quite clear from the first over in Cardiff, although we got in the end quite a good match over the 4 days that were there. It was a fast moving game. I think it was quite obvious that it was a slow pitch that nullified Australia's bowlers. I think to an extent you want to see a more even contest, so therefore I think you want to see a bit more pace, and hopefully it's a bit harder. And I think that to an extent is what we're going to see. I think we're going to see something close to what we saw with the England and New Zealand match, but there was something in it for the bowlers always. So New Zealand had some really encouraging spell at the start of the day, and England was still able to put the runs on in that first Test match. So that's going to be one thing. The second thing is going to be the toss as well. As I said when I was talking about Australia, they were chasing for almost the entire game, bar when England was sort of 43 for 3 and Root was dropped on naught. From then on, England took command really of the match and didn't really look back. And in the second morning, when Moeen Ali put runs on, Australia were chasing from that moment onwards. So the toss is going to be very important. If Australia can get in and try and put some runs on the board, I think that's when we learn about this England team, how they're about setting the initiative with the ball. They did it with the bat. How can they do it with the ball? The third thing really is going to be how are the Ashes debutants going to get on? How's Peter Neville going to deal with the pressure? How's Mitchell Marsh, albeit so he had some really good form in the warm-up games. How can he translate that into an Ashes match at Lords? I think they're the 3 most important things. I see no reason why England can't reproduce the sort of performance that saw them win in Cardiff and saw them beat New Zealand at the same venue earlier this summer. So from that point of view, it's got a really exciting match in prospect, and hopefully the anticipation towards it sort of translated in what should be hopefully a very, very exciting game.
Well, for all our coverage of the Ashes series, go to our website, ibtimes.co.uk.